The spaghetti boiled over. Steam hissed against the stove. The sauce bubbled angrily in the pan. And on the other side of the kitchen, she scrolled through her phone like none of it existed. I stood there, holding 2 plates like a fool, my hands shaking slightly. I'd spent an hour prepping everything. Candles, cloth napkins, even the stupid instrumental playlist I found called Italian Bistro Vibes. And she didn't even look up. "Dinner's ready," I said quietly. She didn't answer. I cleared my throat. Louder this time. "Food's done. Thought we could sit together." She sighed. The kind of sigh people make when the Wi-Fi's slow or a commercial interrupts their show. Then, finally, she glanced at me. Not like someone looking at a person, more like someone checking the time on a microwave. "I'd rather go hungry." That was it. 5 words. 5 goddamn words that made the floor shift beneath me. The silence that followed was thicker than the sauce I'd ruined trying to impress her. I didn't ask why. I didn't plead. I didn't remind her it was the anniversary of the day we moved in together. Because what's the point? I set 1 plate down, took mine, left, walked out the front door without my coat, past the porch light that still flickers when it rains, and got into my car with a bowl of pasta and a fork. I ate it in the driver's seat. Engine running. Radio off. The street was quiet except for the neighbor's dog barking at shadows. Halfway through, I started crying without realizing it. Not the ugly kind. Just slow. Controlled. Like my body was trying to leak out the truth I refused to admit. She doesn't love me anymore. Maybe she hasn't for a long time. But the part that still haunts me, the part one can't stop replaying, is what I saw when I got home. She was in the kitchen. Not eating. Not cleaning. Just laughing. Laughing on a FaceTime call with someone I've never seen before. And when she spotted me through the reflection in the glass, she didn't flinch. She just turned the phone slightly away and kept laughing. I didn't say anything that night. Not when I walked back in. Not when I heard the clink of her wine glass or the stifled giggle as she whispered something to whoever was on the other end of that call. I didn't ask who it was. I didn't even ask why she suddenly had makeup on when, an hour ago, she was in pajamas and greasy hair pretending to be tired. That's the thing about slow breakups. They don't explode. They drip. And by the time you notice the flood, everything's already ruined. I lay in bed next to her that night, but I might as well have been in the guest room. She scrolled on her phone with the screen tilted slightly away from me, like she always did lately. That subtle angle. Not dramatic, not obvious, but just enough to make me feel like I didn't belong in her world anymore. Her thumb moved fast. She was typing something, then deleting, then typing again. I knew the rhythm by heart now. It was the Morse code of secrets. At one point, I finally whispered, "Is there someone else?" She didn't answer right away. Just let the question sit in the dark like a ghost between us. Then she sighed, placed her phone face down on her nightstand, and turned her back to me. No denial, no confrontation, just silence. And that silence was louder than any confession. The next morning, I did what I always do when I can't breathe. I cleaned, scrubbed the counters, organized the fridge, washed dishes that were already clean. And when I reached for her coffee mug, the same chipped one she used every day, something inside me snapped. It wasn't the mug. It was the lipstick stain. Ruby red. Fresh. She hadn't worn that lipstick for me in months. By noon, I was sitting in my car in the driveway again, phone in hand, staring at our shared cell plan like a detective without a badge. I'm not proud of what I did next, but desperate men don't play fair. I logged into our cloud backup and pulled her recent photo sync. Not messages. Not calls. Just pictures. The third photo stopped my heart. It was taken in a mirror. A hotel mirror. She was wearing a black dress I'd never seen before, slit high, neckline low. Her eyes were glassy, lips curled in a smile I hadn't earned in years. And in the blurry background, just behind her shoulder, was the outline of a man's jacket, hung carefully on a chair. She hadn't gone out to clear her head that weekend 2 weeks ago. She wasn't at the spa. She was with him, whoever he was. And the worst part? That dress still had the store tag attached when I took out the trash the next day. She hadn't even bothered to hide it. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted to. God, I wanted to hold up that photo and ask her who the hell he was, where they went, what they did, and how long I've been the joke at the bottom of their texts. But something held me back. Maybe it was cowardice. Maybe it was the small, pathetic hope that if I just kept pretending nothing was wrong, she might come back to me. Or maybe, deep down, I already knew the answers, and I wasn't ready to hear them said out loud. Either way, I kept my mouth shut, but I started watching. That Monday morning, I accidentally left for work an hour early. Truth is, I parked 2 streets down and walked back, staying low behind the fence between our yard and the neighbors. Her car didn't move. She didn't leave. But around 10:42 a.m., a black SUV pulled into the driveway. Not Uber. Not DoorDash. Too clean, too familiar in the way it reversed slowly, like it had done it before. And then he got out. Tall. Sunglasses. Confident stride. Not a glance around. Like he knew I wouldn't be home. She opened the door before he even knocked. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I stood there for 15 straight minutes, hidden like a criminal, while the man I had no name for walked into my house like he owned it. When I walked back in that evening, I didn't say a word. She was in the kitchen again, humming. That same little tune she used to sing while we cooked together, back when she still asked me how my day was. I played dumb. I kissed her on the cheek. I even asked if she wanted to watch something that night. She declined, of course. She had an early Zoom meeting. They all do. But I noticed something strange. There was a men's coat hanging on the hook by the door. Not mine. I didn't say anything. But when she went upstairs to prep for work, I checked the pockets. Inside was a single crumpled receipt. Room 302, Sherwood Suites, purchased 2 nights ago. 1 room, 2 glasses of red wine, and a late checkout charge. It was him. I put the receipt back exactly where I found it. And then, as if possessed by someone much colder than I ever thought I could be, I went to my laptop and opened a spreadsheet. Yeah, a spreadsheet. I started tracking everything. Dates, times, behavior shifts, lies, things she wore, things she didn't say. A whole damn chart of betrayal. I became an analyst of my own humiliation. Because if I couldn't fix my marriage, I was damn sure going to understand how it died. But none of it prepared me for what happened the next night. I came home late from work, for real this time. And as I walked through the door, I heard something from the living room. A voice. Not hers. A man's. Confident. Casual. Laughing. At first, I thought she was on the phone again. But when I stepped inside, the living room was dark. Empty. No calls. No video chats. Just the flicker of the TV on pause. And on the screen, frozen in HD, was a video of her. With him. In a hotel room. Laughing. Drinking. And then, starting to undress. I don't know how the file got there. I don't know if she was careless, or if he sent it to her, and she forgot to log out of the smart TV account. But I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the paused screen, watching the woman I married kiss someone else in my living room. And just like that, I realized, this wasn't an affair. It was a whole second life. I never thought I'd become that guy. The one who trails his wife's car like a wannabe spy, heart hammering against the steering wheel, breath fogging up the windshield as he tries to stay 2 cars back without getting noticed. But here I was, on a gray Thursday afternoon, doing exactly that. I told my boss I had a dentist appointment. I didn't. I just couldn't sit in that office another day pretending everything was okay while she lived like a stranger next to me. No, not a stranger. Like an actress. Like someone playing a role she had long since stopped caring about. I had to know where she went, who she saw, what lies she buried between her 11 a.m. coffees and her fake 4 p.m. calls with HR. At 11:38 a.m., she left the house. I waited a full 60 seconds before pulling out after her. She didn't take the freeway. She didn't go downtown like she said she would in her calendar. She drove northeast, a slower, quieter part of the city, the kind of place with small office buildings and boutique studios tucked behind coffee shops with plants in the windows. I followed her for 23 minutes. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel the entire time. Part of me prayed she'd pull into a spa, a bookstore, even a grocery store would have been a relief. But no, she parked behind a gray building with no sign. Just a single black door, no windows, and a keypad. She punched in a code like she'd done it 100 times. The door clicked open, and she slipped inside. I waited, and waited. 40 minutes went by, then 60, then 85. I counted. I kept looking at the entrance, waiting for someone else to come out. Him, maybe. The man from the video. But no one did. It was like the building swallowed her whole. I was about to give up and drive home when my phone buzzed. A text. From her. You forgot your wallet this morning. That was it. No emoji. No punctuation. Just a sentence that meant only one thing. She knew I was watching her. I panicked. I ducked down in the car like an idiot, like that would somehow undo everything. My mind spun in every direction. Did she see me in the mirror? Did she plan this? Was it a trap? And then the paranoia kicked in harder than ever before. What if she was testing me? What if she wanted me to follow her? I drove off in a full sweat, heart thumping so hard I thought I'd black out. I didn't stop until I hit a gas station 15 minutes away. I sat there in the parking lot for what felt like forever, trying to breathe, trying to think. That's when something hit me. She wasn't hiding anymore. Not really. She was daring me to catch her. And that terrified me more than anything, because it meant she didn't care about consequences, about being caught, about what I would think or do or say. Our marriage, our history, all the years and holidays and promises, they didn't scare her anymore. I didn't scare her. I was no longer someone she respected. I was just background noise. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling while she snored softly beside me like nothing had happened. I turned my head toward her, just watching her breathe, wondering what her dreams looked like. If they were about him. If they were about me dying, disappearing, finally giving up. I thought about shaking her awake, about confronting her right there in the dark. But then a darker thought crept in. What if she wanted me to? What if she was waiting for me to explode so she could blame everything on me? Flip the script. Call me controlling. Call me paranoid. Call me dangerous. So I said nothing. Again, like I always do. But the next morning, while she was showering, I checked her coat pocket. And what I found wasn't a receipt this time. It was a small black USB drive. Unlabeled. Cold. Like a loaded gun with no fingerprints. I didn't plug it in. Not yet. But I will. And whatever's on it, I know it's going to change everything. I don't know how long I sat there staring at that tiny piece of plastic, balanced between my fingers like a live grenade. My palms were sweating. My heart was beating so hard it felt like it was shaking the floor beneath me. It wasn't just fear. It was the certainty that once I plugged that thing in, I wouldn't be able to unknow what was on it. There would be no more pretending. No more quiet dinners or silent rides in the car. No more weak smiles over coffee mugs. That flash drive was a line, one I couldn't uncross. She was still in the shower when I took my work laptop out from under the bed. It was the only one she never touched. I plugged the drive in. The computer froze for a second, just long enough to make me think I'd broken something. And then a single folder appeared. January. That was it. No password, no warning, no labels. I clicked. Inside were 10 videos, all labeled by date. No context, no names, just cold, digital timestamps. I opened the first one. The screen flickered. A shaky handheld camera panned across a dimly lit hotel room. And there she was, my wife, sitting on the edge of the bed, laughing into the lens, holding a wine glass, wearing that same black dress with the tag I found in the trash. Her smile was unrecognizable, not because it was unfamiliar, but because I hadn't seen it in years. Then the camera turned toward the man holding it. I recognized his voice before I saw his face. I'd heard it before. At our wedding. On our porch last summer. In our kitchen when he'd helped me fix the damn sink. It was my old college roommate, Wes. My best man. I almost dropped the laptop. My ears rang. My chest caved in. I thought of the toast he gave at our wedding. The one where he said he'd never seen anyone love another person the way I loved her. I remembered how he cried when he said it. I thought they were real tears. But now I could see it clearly. They were tears of guilt. The video wasn't pornographic. It didn't need to be. It was somehow worse. It was personal. Familiar. The way they joked, the inside comments, the way she leaned into him when he talked. This wasn't new. This wasn't reckless infatuation. This had history. I watched 5 of the videos. Each one in a different hotel room. Different outfits. Same man. Same woman. Same betrayal. Sometimes they talked about me. Casually. Like I was a mutual friend they were lying to about movie plans. At one point she even laughed and said, "He's still trying. Bless his heart." Bless his heart. Like I was some clueless puppy chasing a car I'd never catch. When I heard her turn the shower off, I yanked the USB out like it was on fire and shoved it back in her coat. My fingers were trembling. My whole body felt like it was floating above itself. But the strangest part was how numb I felt. Not angry. Not even heartbroken anymore. Just detached. Like I was watching someone else's life burn down. She came into the room in a towel, humming again. That same stupid melody I couldn't name. She didn't even glance at me. Just walked past and said, "You left dishes in the sink again." That night, I didn't eat dinner. I told her I wasn't feeling well. She didn't ask why. She didn't ask anything. But I couldn't sleep. My head wouldn't shut up. And around 3:42 a.m., I did something I hadn't done in years. I drove to my mother's house and sat on the curb outside until sunrise, like a child waiting to be let in. She didn't even ask what happened. Just opened the door and hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. I stayed there the whole weekend. Told Jenna I was at a company offsite. She didn't ask for details. She just replied, okay. No punctuation. No concern. No curiosity. And when I came back on Monday morning, the house felt different. Her coat was gone. Her suitcase was missing. And taped to the fridge was a yellow sticky note with one sentence on it. Don't try to follow me this time. I stood there for almost 5 full minutes, just staring at the sticky note. I didn't touch it. I didn't crumple it up or throw it or scream or call her. I just stood frozen, watching that ridiculous little yellow square flutter at the edges from the breeze of the nearby vent, like it was mocking me. Don't try to follow me this time. This time. The words replayed over and over in my head. She knew I followed her before. She always knew. That note wasn't a warning. It was a victory lap. The house was dead silent. No music. No candle smells. No trace of her perfume. But the quiet wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. Like the walls themselves were embarrassed for me. Every room I walked into felt wrong. Like it had been emptied of something I couldn't name. She took weird things with her too. Not just clothes. She left the TV, but took the old blanket we used to fight over. Left the blender, but took the spoon rest shaped like a cat she once said was too tacky. It was like she wanted to erase only the pieces that meant something to me. And then I walked into the bedroom. Everything looked untouched at first. But when I opened the nightstand drawer on her side, I found something she clearly meant to leave behind. A letter, folded in half. No envelope. My name written in small, lowercase cursive like she was signing a yearbook instead of ending a marriage. I didn't want to read it. I wanted to burn it. But I sat on the edge of the bed and unfolded it anyway, hands shaking like I was holding a death certificate. Because in a way I was. It wasn't long. Barely a page. No apologies. No explanations. Just statements. Cold, detached, bullet points of a woman who had clearly rehearsed this in her mind 100 times. We grew apart. I stopped feeling like myself with you. You didn't do anything wrong, and that's part of the problem. I needed chaos. You gave me comfort. Comfort bored me. That line, comfort bored me. It hit like a truck. Like everything I did to make her feel safe, stable, loved, was actually the noose she'd been waiting to cut loose from. I didn't even finish the letter. I couldn't. I just crumpled it in my fist and screamed into a pillow until my throat was raw. And then, I heard the door open. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. Maybe I forgot to lock it. Maybe she came back for something. Maybe I still had a chance. I ran downstairs like an idiot, ready to apologize to the woman who just psychologically filleted me with a ballpoint pen. But it wasn't her. It was Wes, my best friend, my betrayer. He walked in like he owned the place, holding a bag of groceries like this was just another Tuesday. He looked surprised to see me there, genuinely surprised. Like he expected the house to be empty. Like they planned this. What the hell are you doing here? I asked, my voice already breaking. He didn't answer at first, just stared at me. And then, without any shame at all, he set the bag down and said, "She told me she left. I didn't think you'd be back so soon." There was no apology in his voice. No fear. No regret. Just mild inconvenience, like I'd walked in on someone using the wrong bathroom. "You were going to stay here?" I asked, taking a step toward him. He looked at me, eyes narrowing just a bit. "She said you'd be gone all week. She said the place was mine now." Mine. Now. Like I was dead. Like I'd forfeited my own home in some secret transaction I never signed off on. And then I realized they didn't just betray me. They erased me. That was the plan. Wes walked to the living room and plopped onto the couch, grabbed the remote, and had the audacity to say, "If it makes you feel better, she didn't leave you for me. She left you for herself." I laughed. The kind of laugh that sounds more like choking. I didn't know whether to punch him or throw up. So I didn't either. I just walked out the front door and sat on the steps, breathing in air that suddenly felt toxic in my own neighborhood. I thought I was broken before. But this was the part where something inside me changed. Not in an angry, vengeful, action movie way. In a quiet, surgical kind of way. Because if they were rewriting my life without me, I was going to make damn sure I wrote the ending myself. I didn't go back inside for over 2 hours. I just sat there on the porch, staring at nothing, letting the early evening wind crawl across my skin like cold hands. The world moved around me like I wasn't part of it. Kids rode bikes down the street. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. Sprinklers kicked on across the lawn, mechanically spraying life into grass that didn't deserve it. But inside that house, the one I spent years making feel like home, was the man who helped tear it apart, legs up on my coffee table, breathing my air, probably laughing at me under his breath. And still, I didn't lose it. I didn't yell. I didn't throw a brick through the window. That would have given him satisfaction. That would have made me the problem. I'd learned something in those long, sleepless nights. Some betrayals are too big for explosions. They require something colder. I drove to a motel that night. One of those $70 a night places with flickering signs and vending machines that eat your change. I didn't even bring a bag. Just grabbed my laptop and the folder of receipts, photos, and printouts I'd been collecting for weeks. My proof, if you could call it that. Proof of how long she'd been lying. Of how deep Wes had burrowed into our lives. Of how easily they'd both worn masks around me. Family dinners, holidays, birthday parties, while privately twisting the knife. At the motel, I opened my laptop, plugged in a fresh drive, and copied everything. I organized the files, renamed folders, time-stamped videos. I wasn't sure why at first. Maybe I was building my own closure. Maybe I wanted to send it to her parents. Maybe I just wanted to have something that made me feel less crazy. But then I did something I never thought I would. I wrote her an email. Not dramatic, not accusatory, just clinical. I attached the folder, included a short paragraph, and ended it with 2 sentences. You don't have to explain anything. But now you'll know that I know everything. And I'll be gone before you even have the chance to say you're sorry. I didn't send it yet. I wanted to wait until morning. Wanted her to wake up, stretch, yawn, pour her coffee, maybe even text him something flirty from our bed, and then see her phone light up with the full weight of what she destroyed. I wanted that moment to belong to her, not out of revenge, but because she earned it. Around 4:30 a.m., I returned to the house. Quietly, not to confront, not to talk, just to look one last time. The living room lights were off. Wes's shoes were by the door. I slipped inside, careful not to wake them. The hallway creaked under my feet like it knew I wasn't supposed to be there. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom for a few seconds, watching their silhouettes tangled in my sheets. My sheets. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I just looked. Because sometimes grief isn't loud. Sometimes it's just watching the life you built get lived by someone else while you stand there like a ghost, completely invisible. Before I left, I walked into the kitchen, opened the junk drawer, and pulled out the spare key. I placed it gently on the counter next to her favorite coffee mug, the one with the little fox on it that said "Stay clever." I smiled. Then I walked out. But before I drove off, I sent the email. To her. To Wes. To my mother. And to her boss. Turns out when you cheat on your husband with the director of marketing at your own firm and film parts of it on a company-issued laptop, things get messy. By noon the next day, she was blowing up my phone. But I didn't pick up. Because I wasn't him anymore. Not the man who begged her to come to dinner. Not the fool who waited by the door. Not the invisible husband with nothing left. Now, I was the one who left her hungry. 2 months passed before I heard her voice again. Not through texts. Not through calls. But in person. I was walking out of the hardware store on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, I had started doing my own repairs again. Go figure. And there she was. Standing by her car, arms folded, pretending not to have timed it. But I knew she had. She looked thinner. Her smile was forced. Her eyes carried that familiar weight of someone who thought they were running toward freedom only to realize they'd been running in circles. I could have walked away. Could have ignored her. But I stopped. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. "Hey," she said quietly. "Hey," I replied, just as calm. There was a long pause. Not awkward, just quiet. Like we both knew we were standing in the ashes of something that once meant everything, but now belonged to a version of ourselves we barely recognized. "I got your message," she finally said. I nodded. I figured. She looked down, fiddled with her keys. "You didn't have to send it to everyone." "I did," I said. "Because you never would have told the truth." She didn't deny it. Just sighed. "I don't hate you, you know." I looked her in the eyes, steady and honest. "I don't hate you either." And I meant it. Because somewhere between those sleepless nights and motel stays, between seeing my life hijacked by people I trusted, something strange had happened. I stopped trying to understand why she did what she did. I stopped rehearsing conversations in the shower, stopped scrolling through her photos looking for proof I already had. I stopped asking what if. And I started rebuilding. Not in the dramatic way. I didn't run off to Europe or get a makeover or start dating a yoga instructor named Sky. I just started showing up. For myself. I joined a community hiking group. I started sketching again. I even signed up for therapy, real therapy, the kind where you learn to sit with your pain instead of trying to cover it with distractions and cold dinners. My house became mine again. I repainted the bedroom, got rid of the sheets, donated her mugs, adopted an old dog from the shelter named Pinto, who snores louder than a freight train and smells like peanut butter. But he follows me room to room like I matter. And for now, that's enough. The crazy thing is, I'm not even angry anymore. Not at her. Not at Wes. Not even at myself. Because as much as it hurt, and God, it hurt, I realized something I never expected. She left me. But I found me. And it turns out, I'm not so boring after all. The last thing I said to her before walking away was simple. No drama. No theatrics. I'm doing okay now. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something. Maybe to apologize. Maybe to explain. But I didn't stick around to hear it. I got in my car. Pinto barked from the back seat, his head poking out the window, tongue flapping in the wind. And as I drove away from the woman who once said she'd rather go hungry than share a meal with me, I realized something. I'm finally full.